John was working in his science lab, got blasted by gamma rays. Now he's Smash Trivia John, always smashing. He's friends with Ruffalo, crushing on Maslany, and also Sydney Sweeney. John's here saying, hello my gamma friends, welcome to the show, the Gamma Analysis Podcast.
Smash.
Hello, my Gamma friends. Welcome to the show. I'm your host, Smash Trivia John. You can find me on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram by searching Smash Trivia. I'll be alone with Big Green in the profile picture. This is the Gamma Analysis. Basically, I'm going to review everything Hulk, all the movies, TV shows, and I also do random other geeky films, and sometimes not so geeky films. Hope you enjoy. Smash Trivia presents the Gamma Analysis. I want to ask everyone listening, if you please do sign for me. Please share the hell of this podcast with all your friends. If you don't, Hulk will be angry. Now let's smash right into this episode. Today we'll be reviewing Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. And I was joined by Mad Trivia John from Konsule Kombat. How are you doing, John?
I am fantastic, John. It's been so long. This was long overdue.
Always great having you back on the podcast, and it's gonna be a fun one to review. This is a very complex film.
It's a special movie for sure. And I like to think of this movie as Hulk adjacent because Mark Ruffalo's in it.
I feel like there. I may be wrong about this, but I actually think there might also be something related to Hulk with Jim Carrey. Like maybe like there had been like a film that he had auditioned for the role or sign of Bruce Banner or sign at some point as well. Yeah,
I could see it. See it.
Oh, yeah. But this is a film that I like it. I think it's a really well made film. It's not really my taste of film though.
It's a complicated movie in the sense that the way that the time goes from beginning to end is extremely convoluted the first six times you watch this movie. You really have to process where things are happening in time.
I have now watched the film 3 times. I'm two of those being this week. The original time that I watched it, which was like probably like 5 years ago or something, I thought it was the most confusing, convoluted thing I'd ever seen. And that actually made me be very hesitant about going back to it for this podcast. But then happily after watching it a second time, this week, I was like, okay, that makes a lot more sense than it did when I watched it, and I was only in my teens when I'd watched it then.
Yeah, there's a very grandiose story being told, at least on a 1-to-1 scale. Like, Joel's character is extremely, extremely relatable to I would even say, normal, standard, middle-aged man from even right now. He's single and anxious, and just at the beginning of the movie, he's single, he's anxious, he's afraid to talk to people, he doesn't want to jump out into the world because he just got hurt or he just did something stupid with Naomi. And it's so in a lot of ways relatable to that fear of diving into just anything. It's really I love that analogy about this character specifically in this movie, is he does feel extremely relatable to a lot of people.
Yeah, makes sense. I think it's a very powerful statement as well at the end of they're like, we know that this could go awful, but we're gonna try it again anyway. I think that's a really a cool statement, and though I do feel like they should have been like a little bit more of like we're gonna try this again, but we're gonna listen to these tapes completely and try to fix the things about ourselves that we end up disliking in each
And
other.
it's nice. It's nice to see that. But I mean, in a lot of ways, and this isn't coming from a person who doesn't have a particular faith or religion, it kind of insinuates the idea of fate, in the sense that they found each other through completely erasing each other from each other's lives, and like just the way that that is uh, described throughout this movie is it's just fascinating because it's very unique storytelling, it's very unique delivery of the story, and it's just
Mhm.
real. It's wonderful. It's truly wonderful.
Oh yeah. I think it's also something that I think is really cool in this is this idea that he is like very conscious of everything going on as he's dreaming, but he cannot change things. Whereas sign like Inception, if you know what's going on, you can change things in the dream. Here, he cannot change anything. It is he just has to go through all this,
Yeah.
and I think that's an interesting thing. And like I have times where I'm dreaming and I can tell what's going on. I can tell that I'm dreaming, but I can never change the things that are going on. Like, and that's one thing where I feel like it's a little bit of a disconnect with reality with like Inception versus. So I think this is more like what it would actually be for most people if they were actually conscious is while dreaming. If that makes sense.
Yeah, subconscious, being what's the word I'm looking for? Present. There's another word for present,
Mm.
but you know what I'm saying. Um, it does really beg the question as to how powerful is memory over, like, I guess, supplanted information. Like,
Mm-hmm.
can you change a memory like he was trying to do to save a memory, so to speak? Um, I guess it's a really interesting.
I think they actually said that it did change things with his memories, but then those memories did get deleted.
Yeah, which is crazy because that
Because
means that not only was he able to do things that they were unexpected, but also he was doing things that were technically harming himself just to try to save this thing,
Mhm.
this memory of her. And I feel like he may have been aware of that after the first go around, and he kept going. So I mean, the power of his love for her was really trumping
Oh yeah,
everything there.
but where I say that he did change things, but it deleted anyway is because of the Huckleberry something song on how he doesn't remember it at the end, even though that song is not just associated with her in his mind, it's associated with his childhood. But then he changed the thing with his childhood with her.
Mm, true, true. I guess it's really subjective. It's really hard to say without hearing it from the writer, I suppose.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, I need to get this part out of the way because it's probably the least liked thing about this movie for me, and it's Elijah fucking Wood.
Oh yeah. Yeah, he's a creep for
He
this.
he did such a good job of being a creep.
Oh
Like,
yeah,
did you see Sin City?
I haven't seen that. No.
So he plays a creep in that movie, and he is masterful at it, in my opinion. I don't know what it is. Like, outside of The Hobbit, he plays such a good creep.
I feel like a big part of it is his squeaky voice. Really
Yeah.
helps it a lot.
Well, his demeanor is really small too. Like, he's not a
Mhm.
very large person. Um, And I mean, just the way he was doing the whole trying to do everything that Joel did throughout the movie, and then confessing to stealing her panty. Like, Jesus Christ, man. There was
Yeah.
some decisions in this movie that I don't know why they made.
The one thing though that I'm like, I feel like it doesn't feel fully developed and isn't because it's not all of a sudden it's not explored because they kind of changed and Kristen Dunst's character or to be in love with the boss is um Mark Ruffalo's character. Like they act like him and Kristen Dunst have a relationship together, but then that's just gone and on, and he kind of just has to act like that's okay, and I feel like they don't spend much time focusing on him and and I think it would have been interesting to see a little bit more focus on him.
Yeah, and I think that would have been maybe adding too much unnecessary runtime for this particular
That's
movie
true.
for that subject matter. But I also think that it could be said that the parallels between Mark Ruffalo and Howard uh, to Mary Svetko, Kirsten Dunst's character, they were basically one and the same. I mean, not really. Actually, let me rephrase that. The relationship between Howard and Mary was supposed to be the same as the relationship between uh, Joel and Clementine, and then it ended up being Clementine and Pete, Elijah Wood, and Mark Ruffalo and Mary being the same kind of concept. I think instead, though, Pete was trying to do it out of selfish lust, whereas Mark Ruffalo's character was more trying to do it to stop her from going back. So I think he was in some part a
Uh,
plant
uh, Stop. I don't wait. Do you
going
mean
back to Howard. Go,
Howard is trying to stop her from going back?
I think that he suggested that
Okay.
her and Mark Ruffalo get together, and Mark Ruffalo went with it because he had already seen the relationship that
Ah.
happened, and he was attracted to her anyway. So he was like, "Well, why not?" And maybe he
Okay.
pulled the same kind of thing that Pete was doing with Clementine, except more to stop something from happening similarly, but for a different reason.
Okay.
I think that's how I perceive it, having seen it again today and kind of seeing the parallels there.
That could make sense. But yeah. I one thing I do think is a little strange is that and is I don't think they were when they were making the film they were totally decided on how they want like these disintegrating memories to look because like usually stuff just disappears, but then what's with like the car falling out of the sky at one point?
Yeah, that was weird. That felt more like Truman Show kind of thing, or maybe not Truman Show, but like I guess like Portally kind of thing. Just didn't really make sense because there was no other instances of a car accident, was
Yeah,
there?
no, and it's literally just falling out of the sky. I'm like, what?
Hmm. Yeah, no, that is the most random thing that happened in the movie. Now that you mention it, I think that really is the
Uh,
most random thing.
um, I think. What do I want to say about this film? I feel like there's a lot of really deep things that he said, but I'm not like I don't. I'm not the kind of person who is able to figure out all these really deep things to have conversations about.
Well, and that's the thing too, is there wasn't so much depth to the dialogue, in my opinion. It was more
Mhm.
that there was a chemistry that you could see very,
Oh
very
yeah.
palpably between not Kirsten, that's Kate Winslet and Jim Carrey. They were very well, like they were very well put together.
Oh yeah.
Um, I do think that the whole Charles River frozen over thing and them lying down and him saying, this is that moment. I'm happy. I would die right now. That's the powerful message.
Yeah, that scene on the ice. That's one thing where I am still kind of confused about the timeline of because I I think that they might have done that both when they first got together and a second time I'm when after or everything happened. Which if that were the case, then I feel like Clementine would have like been like, hey, maybe we don't go here. I just the other night had a really weird time at this frozen lake with another guy.
Yeah, I think that the lake situation was a one-time thing that just happened to be shown twice with them.
Maybe the reason I'm thinking there's a difference is the inference is that um because they definitely filmed it multiple times. I'm since and one of the times I'm there laying on the ground, there is a crack in the ice near them, versus the other time there's no crack.
Mm.
So that's what made me think that maybe it happened twice. That they went that Jim Carrey and Kate Winslet did that.
So was the crack there the second time and not the first time, or the other way around?
I I think it was the crack was there the second time.
Because I remember early on, the first time you see them on the ice.
All right, yeah, I think we saw the crack during the first few scenes, but then when we were in there, the memory and seeing when they done it before or all of this, there was no crack.
That could just be a misfilm thing,
Okay.
or it could be erased already because of the memory. Or here's the thing, he didn't attribute that spot to the ice because it was an imperfection to an otherwise perfect moment.
That could make sense.
I mean, there's a lot of reasons I think that could have existed, but I do think the crack is relevant because
Yeah.
it took place. This is where I think it matters to the bigger picture, so to speak. I think the crack was present in a time when they weren't ready to be together, so they were broken still. And by the end of the movie, they know of each other's flaws. They become aware of each other's shortcomings by their own word. And they're at that point, the fresh start, the clean slate. I mean, that's just a thing.
If it didn't happen twice, then what did on when we see them at the end of the film, what were they doing the night before? Because they had been together that the night before, and it was clearly not the time that they were or at either of them's house because they were coming home from signing and she wanted to sleep over at his house.
And that was obviously after they both had the memory thing
Yeah.
done. Now, and that was after the ice. They were at the ice, and then the next day that happened.
Well, I think that's how I took it. But okay, but I'm that's but if it happened if the ice only happened the first time that they were together, then that makes you wonder. Then what were they doing that night before, or when they were coming home, and then she went in to grab her toothbrush and
I got it. I got
livelihood.
it. I just figured it out because of all the things I just pieced it all together. So the night before they were at the ice, the crack was there because she had fallen on her butt. I remember at the end of the movie, she checked her butt for the bruise because she had the bruise from when she went there with Pete. So she had went there with Pete. So the reason the memory didn't have the crack was because she hadn't fallen yet. Because the memory was the first time they went to the ice.
So she did go multiple times with Jim
with
Carrey's
Joel.
there,
That's what I would have to assume then. Yeah,
which that then begs the question: why would you want to go back there after having such a bad experience with Elijah Wood's character?
it wasn't the place; it was the person. She was happy until it felt wrong.
Makes sense.
And that's why I think in the last memory she said go to Montauk because I think that was Montauk, right?
I think so.
So that makes sense because that's where they were happy together. So go back to where you were happy together.
Okay.
Yeah, I this whole movie is such a interesting ride of
Yeah,
going back to it. Like
it is a mind fuck.
it's really powerful though. I love it.
Oh yeah. I think it is definitely a very good movie. Yeah, it's not something I can see myself going back to a whole bunch of times just because it's not my taste in films. But I think it's also a really well made film, and I love all the performances in it. And like I was just like I talked about with Good Will Hunting and Robin Williams. I love seeing comedic actors in serious roles because it really to me kind of seems like they just always kill it when it's a serious role. It's a comedic actor.
Number 23 is a perfect example. Truman
Yeah.
Show is a perfect example.
Currently airing right now, out Severance.
Oh, with
It's
Adam
on
Scott.
with Adam Scott is a great example.
Yeah, I've heard.
He's so good in it, and it's not. He's not jokey at all, which everything else I've seen him in, he's always been in comedic.
Same thing could be said about Bryan Cranston with Breaking Bad
Oh
and
yeah,
Jason Bateman with uh what's the Ozarks. I mean, just the comedians, they have this depth that no one seems to get, and when they touch it, man, it is powerful most of the time.
oh yeah, and even though Ted Lasso is kind of a comedic show, it's still much more of a serious role for Jason
Sudeikis.
Sudeikis than anything else he's previously done, and he's so good in it.
I haven't seen Ted Lasso. I've heard a lot of good things. I'm trying to think if there's any other instances where comedians, like, I mean, to some degree, you could say even Bill Burr, because he was on The Mandalorian and he wasn't a comedian in The Mandalorian. Um, Also, really ironic because he's also not a fan of Star Wars and that type of thing at all. But
Hey, Harrison Ford's not a fan of Star Wars, and he appears at Star Wars stuff too.
yeah, that's fair. I mean, it's just it really is. It's true that the comedic actors really do have something special about them. I mean, hell, even Jack Black's got some serious movies
Oh
out
yeah,
there.
absolutely. There's a film that I remember watching that I thought was really good from Jack Black that's completely serious called The D Train.
I don't know if I've ever heard of that one.
I don't it's basically about a man who realizes, even though if I remember right, it's been a long time since I watched it, but if I remember right, it was about a man who is in a relationship with a woman, but he realizes he's gay. It was very powerful, I think, and there are some other roles from Jack Black as well, who all that I've seen that and are decently serious that he also does well with. If There was one I don't remember what the name was, but it was um based on the true story of this guy who had killed a woman, and it was a really good one that he had done, and yeah, there's definitely a lot of these things of comedic actors doing amazing jobs of serious work.
I mean, just going back to Jack Black really quick, one of I think the earliest movie I remember seeing him in was The Neverending Story 3, and he was technically a villain in that movie.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just so good.
And there's Ryan Reynolds with Buried.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, wow. Yeah. What a twisted movie.
Oh,
Twisted
like
movie.
like he anybody who thinks that Ryan Reynolds can only be Deadpool in films,
Watch Buried.
yeah, you need to watch that film, and your perception of him will completely change.
Actually, you could say that about Smoking Aces too. Not the second one.
I haven't watched Smoking Aces, but I can definitely imagine. So
He's a little bit funny in that movie, but he makes some
the thing is,
hard cop choices.
I even when he even with all the films where he is funny in them, I do think there are different slight nuances to all of them where it doesn't feel like he's playing Deadpool to me.
Oh yeah.
Like he's a humorous character in If last year, but it doesn't feel anything like Deadpool with the sense of humor he has.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's why he feels like, and it's accurate to say he was born to play Deadpool because it's just, I guess, convenient irony. But yeah, there is plenty of instances where he's not Deadpool
Oh
to
yeah.
be argued. Plenty.
Yeah. Let's see what else there I want to talk about with this film. I think it's really cool how what they all the times where Joel is trying to see Patrick's face in his memories. He can't. He just can't. Because like I like the they did that. It's hilarious seeing um them Kate Winslet and Jim Carrey playing a child Joel
Oh
and
God.
somebody else.
Oh. And then you hear them talking later on when it's clearly not them.
uh, but then they put Clementine in this outfit that the little girl was wearing. It's absolutely hilarious.
I gotta say too,
Yeah.
though, I do dig Kate Winslet with the colorful hair.
Oh yeah.
She looks fantastic
Definitely.
with colorful hair.
Oh, one thing I was thinking about while watching it, I imagine Jim Carrey probably in some of these scenes had a lot of trouble keeping a straight face while filming. Like particularly when you have Mark Ruffalo and Kristen Dunst in their underwear dancing
Dancing
around you.
or literally almost on top of you.
Well, yeah. Though Mark Ruffalo wasn't in underwear in that one, but like I just imagine like he was probably having so much trouble keeping a straight face and just staying still, lying in the bed as that was happening.
Yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't have been able to keep a straight face. I would have been jumping and bouncing and been like kicking him. I don't know how he did it. Gotta give him the hats off for that one. That was impressive.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. Uh, let's see what else is there to talk about with this film.
I do like how they made the disintegrating mostly look really like it was backing up in time, like, or just straight out slicing out of existence.
I think they did it a similar way as what was done with Back to the Future.
Uh, how did they do it in Back to the Future? I thought they just faded.
Because it was fading, and there were a lot of scenes where things faded,
That's true.
disappearing in this.
That's true. I'm thinking the I guess the scene with the car where they got out of the car and it just kind of like started to break apart.
Oh yeah, and then they also just there's scenes where they just walk to other environments and it's seamless. And that's was really cool as well. But going back really quick to the fading, I think that one thing that I definitely did not notice on either of my first two watches is I only noticed it in my third watch that I did today. The thing that alerts you that he is dreaming. The first thing, at least I'm pretty sure, or is him looking at the card with a card saying that Clementine had done this, and her name disappearing from the card.
Yeah, I might have missed that too. Actually, it had been a while since I've seen the movie, so I don't.
But yeah, that was. But I noticed that and I was like, oh, that's because I was wondering at what point in the film exactly are we entering the dream state, and I'm pretty sure actually like other than the fast forward scenes at the very beginning, I think everything that we saw is him and within the dream machine.
Oh, almost for sure, yeah.
Yeah, it's but yeah, I think it's really cool how they did the and all that. What was it? I wanted something else I wanted to say. Yeah, I'm blanking on it. Let's see what else. I'm blanking out. Is there anything? What else would you like to talk about the film?
I would like to say that the horror aspect of this movie was out of
Oh yeah,
control. The faces,
oh
when
yeah,
they were all blurred or just completely wiped, that was absolutely terrifying.
definitely. But I can definitely understand that though. But I do think they did some really great effects for those.
Oh, for sure, yeah. The For its
Yeah.
time, the CG was impressive.
Oh yeah, definitely. And also like when we're going back to like the child old Joel scenes, like they did a really good job of making it look like both Kate Winslet and Jim Carrey are in the scene in the kitchen together, even though they have to be filming those separately because of the fact that Jim Carrey is very small in the scene.
I mean, it's possible too that they were using depth perception,
Possibly.
because the way that he was under the table could have been super far back, and he could have just been walking around underneath a much larger than himself table. That's I've seen that kind of, like they did that with Lord of the Rings with Elijah Wood and Ian McKellen.
Okay.
They made, because Gandalf was so much taller than the Hobbit, so they had basically had him up on a stand to make it seem like he was taller by a lot, or for
Mm-hmm.
depth, if it makes it look like they're taller, which is possible they did that, or they did the other way, or
That
they
makes
did
sense.
superimposed. It's either way. It's very well done. You cannot tell for
Oh
sure.
yeah, definitely. I like how even though Joel and Clementine, their relationship kind of eroded, the fact that the necklace that Joel got for Clementine was exactly her taste really showed how he still cared a lot.
I mean, it shows that he knew her for
Yeah,
sure.
absolutely.
Um, I think, I feel like that was where Elijah Wood's character fell short with trying to pretend to
Mm-hmm.
be Joel. Was he was doing an act,
Mm-hmm.
and I feel like maybe she realized there's no way that he would have known that that's her taste, like in such a short time. Like
Right.
Elijah Wood's character, not Jim Carrey's character. And I think that's one of her tells, or one of his
Well,
tells.
I think there's that, but then there's just like particular things that set her brain off. I'm guessing they didn't do the procedure right on her, so she was left with little bits of things that didn't make sense to her. So like how she immediately gets triggered upon the word nice now.
I mean, that could have always been a thing that she had a problem with, because she seemed to not like it from the get go with Joel
Mm-hmm.
too. Um, I'm sorry, I'm playing devil's advocate super hard
Okay.
tonight. I think that her character never changed, and that was one of the best. I mean, I guess really neither of the characters changed until the end. And in the end, like at the
Mm-hmm.
end of the movie, when Jim Carrey says something like "that's nice" or something, and then he says "no, that's fucking great," and then he switches up to be more like something she would like. It's before she hears or they hear the tape, and he's already starting to
Mm-hmm.
make his evolving stance in life. He's trying to be a little bit more her way, because he doesn't want to just live his way and watch it pass him by. So I
Makes
think
sense.
that he was definitely opening up to being more different
Mhm.
for her. And I like that because there was not the character arcs were not, I guess Clementine's wasn't prominent because she wasn't the main focus,
Mhm.
but Jim Carrey's was. You could tell that he went from that person that was reserved and didn't want to be out there, and then all of a sudden he makes this decision to play hooky from work
Mhm.
and all that, and down the rabbit hole. You know what I mean?
One thing at the very end that I think is a really good a little detail is how he notices the dent on his car, but then just assumes that it was the person right next to him or
Mm-hmm.
the car next to him that did it.
Yep. And then like
Uh,
45 minutes later, we find out it was her.
oh yeah.
I thought it was really cool that they kind of. I feel like it's cool that they did like a movie reset kind of thing towards the end where they kind of brought it back to where it was, but they skipped a little bit to make it so it wasn't so slow. But you
Mhm.
get to see all the effects of all the things that happened and how they came to be, all these little different things that have affected him between when she and he broke up and when he got his memory erased and then that moment. There's all the little details kind of start falling into place throughout the movie. It's really cool.
Oh yeah, definitely. Now, something I was thinking about after watching because obviously Kristen Dunst's character decides that this all is not ethical that they've been doing this. It's what would have to happen for something like this to be ethical? I think the two things that would have to happen is one, there would need to be a way to reverse it, and two, you need to be they need to be able to particularly keep the memories of you having erase chosen to erase them so you know what's going on afterwards so that you can make that choice so that like within for Kristen and Dunst's character like she could have then decided oh I want to get this reversed or deciding that she doesn't like that this were done and not it just because that helps so that if there is a situation where someone is forced into having done it, which I'm pretty sure she was, uh, uh, she could once she is safe, if afterwards she can get it reversed and fix things.
I don't think she was forced. I think she might have been more
I don't,
coerced.
yeah, maybe coerced. Like it felt to me like there was a very much a pressure on her to do
I'm sure there was some, yeah.
like the Howard was starting by saying you chose to do this, but then he changed it to we decided you would do this.
Yeah. It's it's hard to say because we didn't really see that part of the movie or
Mm-hmm.
that happen in real time. That could have been any number of questionable things. I think there is some positives to a thing like this, trauma being erased,
Oh yeah,
things like that. The
I
consenting thing is what's important, but to go along with what you say about the details, I think the things that would be relevant, including letting the person know that they did have someone erased from their lives, is that the other person or people that they are erasing need to be informed too.
well, yeah that absolutely also like I think there one thing this film doesn't really go into that I think would also be a problem is like I so he calls into work and says that as he's not going to make it in today. Well, what's to say that someone has this done and that but what the time before they were in a relationship with someone they were at a different job so they just think they were at a different job now.
I mean, that would insinuate that all time is erased. I think
I it
It's
kind of
questionable.
seems to me like at least most time is erased within that within the time that they were together.
It does seem like it because at the beginning of the movie, he says it's like 2 years worth of time had passed since his last journal entry. That's one of the little details that I missed.
Yeah,
Um, I don't know.
like
It,
that.
it-
I feel like that could be a big problem. To then just not know where you work
well,
and
what if you went to school for 2 years and then you lost those 2 years?
oh yeah, I think there's a lot of big problems with this that it helps a lot, but even simply by I you being able to keep the memory of you going in and choosing to do this, so that you understand why you don't remember these things, and not
Yeah.
just confused. It was like Clementine was absolutely going crazy for the past week because she didn't know what was going on.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess that's why they had to refer to it as brain damage because that
Mm-hmm.
that kind of thing doesn't come without a cost.
Yeah.
Um, uh, those kind of things will always be subject to moral questioning, I
Oh yeah.
suppose.
Oh yeah. And I'm not trying to say that the possible lack of morals of it hurts the film. I just think it's interesting to think about those moral implications.
Yeah, and it is, and I think in some ways that's one of the reasons why at least people like me. I know there's a lot of difference in terms of how people perceive movies. Movies like this, I guess, I think you're meant to suspend disbelief.
Mm-hmm.
Um, in a lot of cases, there's a lot of realism to the message, while the story itself is fantastical. Movies like Big Fish come to mind for stuff like that, where it's super fantastical, but the message is powerful all the same.
Mm-hmm.
Um, a lot of the time, it's love stories that do that. Another one that comes to mind is Cloud Atlas. Big story, big CG stuffs, but message is all the same.
Mm-hmm.
It just, I think it really lends to the story more than anything to I guess to allow that kind of narrative visualization to be more fantastical.
Yeah. But like I can definitely understand that, Adam. I just think it's interesting to think about
Oh no,
the
you're right.
moral
It is.
aspect, and its aspect. It also kind of though makes me then wonder about like the morality of like the spell at the end of No Way Home.
Oh yeah,
Like is like it's really kind of messed up actually that even though Peter told his friends he's going to let them know about him so that they remember these things again, he just decides not to and leaves them without memories.
yeah. And there's moral implications to both sides of that too. Like the moral aspect of you telling them, you bring them right back to where they were before you didn't tell them. And
Mm-hmm.
what's the point? But then you also sacrifice if you don't tell them because
And but also though also since every single person in the entire universe had had like forgot him, they all had lost memories and they didn't consent to losing
Mhm.
any of these memories. And yes, it is technically supposed to be only losing Peter, but there are so many things that connect with one person that there's so much that people just don't remember, and and it's not just it becomes time where it's not just him that they've lost.
Yeah, yeah. It's hard.
Mm-hmm. And again, I'm not trying to say it makes any of these films bad. It's just I think it's interesting to think about. Though I am someone who does not like the spell at No Way Home at the end of No Way Home, just because I love those relationships and I
Yeah.
don't like that we lost them.
Well, I was thinking about that just now too, and I know this is completely off topic, but that spell did affect so many people.
Oh yeah.
um, if you think about it too, right? Was there not like information specifically about the battle in Endgame that like wasn't there cameras and shit there? Didn't they say there was like recording stuff?
I'm pretty sure, or there was sign. I think any kind of recordings, and he's just not there, which then begs the question: how did these events happen differently within people's minds?
Yeah, like at one point, Peter Parker, dressed without a mask as Spider-Man, handed the Infinity Gauntlet directly to Captain Marvel.
Oh yeah,
How did she get the Infinity Gauntlet?
yeah. I think that spell creates so many possible plot holes that I don't think will ever get resolved.
Well, they don't need to because they happened in the past. My guess, just to be my own devil's advocate, if Doctor Strange was capable, he just any Peter Parker moments that were Spider-Man moments are still Spider-Man moments without Peter Parker's name attached.
Yeah, I guess as I mean they do people do still know about Spider-Man.
Yeah,
So
they know
and
there are
since
people that know who Peter Parker is. They just don't know that he is Spider-Man.
I don't think there are people who know who Peter Parker is I'm pretty sure Peter Parker is
Well,
completely erased. Erased like
maybe I
since
missed.
the fact that since he has to who created an entirely new life for himself of because there are no records of him in any kind of IM systems and um at the end that's with that final scene in No Way Home. So I don't think they know anything of Peter Parker at all.
That's true. That makes sense.
Yeah, but Spider-Man though is absolutely still known on based on the fact that both we have reference to him in Multiverse Madness and also in Quantum Mania.
And Across the Spider-Verse.
But yeah, though I feel like Across the Spider Verse is a little different because it's not actually in the MCU. So I don't think that the spell actually affected people outside of the MCU.
Oh no, it didn't affect him, but they did mention the spell.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, so the spell is canonically technically affected outside of the MCU proper, but it's not physically altered anything outside of the
mm-hmm.
MCU proper.
Yeah. I think actually I don't think they were referencing a spell. I think they were referencing just the multiversal stuff that happened. Like they were in Across the Spider Verse. I think he was referring to the
Oh, that's
fact that
entirely
all
true.
those
Yeah,
villains were came to this universe are due to the first spell that
that's
happened
true. Yeah, I didn't think of it that way.
because um villains going to other universes is a particular pet peeve of Miguel
That's
O'Hara.
true. Yeah, yeah. I hadn't thought of it that way. That does
Uh,
make much more sense.
um, is there anything else about Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind that you want to talk about?
Eternal Sunshine of No Way Home. We did get awfully Spider-Man there for about 10 minutes.
Yeah, I mean it is kind of connected because it is a memory spell.
Yeah. No, I get the parallels. No, I really enjoyed the movie. I
Oh, yeah.
would recommend it. Probably not more than a couple times, just because you need a couple times to really let the whole thing sink in.
Mhm.
Maybe give yourself a few days between.
Yeah, you might make yourself go absolutely insane if you just repeatedly watch this film.
You'll be trying to figure things out that don't make sense.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. That I don't really have anything else to say about this film, so I think I'm gonna wind this down. Are there any just final words you'd like to say before I end this off?
No, thanks for having me on for another fantastic movie to talk about.
Yeah.
Anything is better than the Amazing Bulk, but
Yeah. That
this is
was.
many steps above that.
Mhm. That was a mind fuck in the worst way possible.
Yes, that was a meme fuck. That movie was just a meme fuck. I've used that meme probably several dozen times since then.
Mhm.
Just the bulk
It's
running through the city.
so God, it's so bad.
It's probably the worst movie of all time.
Mhm. Well, everyone, please check out the Mad Trivia John on the Console Combat podcast. As I know you'll enjoy it. It's a really fun podcast, Aston. And everyone listening, thank you. And if you like this game analysis, please give a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or a 5-star rating on Spotify. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this movie, so please let me know. If you'd like to listen to more from me, please subscribe. I have many more game analysis from me coming, so keep on the lookout. This again is your host, Master John, signing off.